What you think today, how you see your life right now, was influenced by the things that happened to you. Something happened, and that changed everything.
Hey friends, and welcome to the Unpack Show podcast with myself, Johannes Baloyi. And thank you for joining me, because this is a place where we unpack the question we have in mind on the challenges we come across as we go about building and improving our lives. Friends, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you can be notified when we release a new episode. This week, I want to give a credit and a shout out to everyone out there who's working hard, waking up every morning and working on your hustle, your talent, being committed to your studies and giving it your all. I'm saying this because I'm one of those hardworking people, and I've seen how being a hard worker, it's not so nice, because you spend most of your time being consumed by the stress of trying to improve your hustle, to better your talent, to study hard and to excel in your studies. And that's why this week, I want to talk to you, my brothers and sisters. As you are a hard worker and you have dreams, how do you feel when things are not going your way? I'm asking this question because it's not every time where things goes the way exactly we want. How do you feel when you fail in your studies? How do you feel when your talent is not recognized? And how do you feel when the business you started doesn't show any form of success? How do you feel when things are not going your way? And like we do on the Unpack Show podcast, inviting you to be part of the conversation by sharing your view. And I like it so much, and we like it so much here on the Unpack Show podcast, to hear your comments every single week on the topics that we talk about. And this week we have a comment from our sister saying that with high rate of unemployment, I've decided to start a small business of selling food. And the business is not doing well, and with lack of customers, I'm starting to have doubts on whether I can really do this business. This is a comment from one of our sisters who listens to the Unpack Show podcast, whom we had the conversation with to try and understand based on the topic of how do you feel when things are not going your way. This is what she had to say. And from what she said, I got a perspective that one of the dominating conversations we have with ourselves when we seem to be faced with failure is doubt. We are doubting ourselves. And doubt comes as a question of whether or not we are capable of doing something, and also if we are really good in doing that. You know, there are so many times where I also had doubts and questioning my ability to do something. And this is because the reality is that when you do something, at the back of our mind, we expect that people will accept us. People will accept what we do. This is what we expect out of doing what we do, or that we expect out of, maybe let's say you want to change yourself. You want to change yourself so that you can be accepted. You want to change yourself because of you trying to fit. And when people doesn't accept you, and when people don't accept even the work that you do, it can cripple your pursuit to whatever it is that you'll be doing in that moment. And that's why doubt, it's one of the dominating conversation we have with ourselves when we seem to be faced with failure, to put it in that way. And there are so many times where I also had doubts and questioned my ability to do something. And a pattern I see in every moment of doubting myself is that, will people accept me and my work? And that's why I say that every time when we do something, we have that expectation of wanting people to accept us and to accept our work. And when people don't accept us and the work that we do, it cripples our pursuit in the business that we do, or in our talent, or even in our studies, or sometimes it can even be on a personal relationship. When someone doesn't accept you for who you really are, it can cripple your ability, it can cripple your capability, it can cripple your pursuit into trying to be the best in what you do. And one of the most beautiful things that has helped me in this journey of life is learning and knowing that I am not for everyone, and it's not everyone who will relate to my work. And this has made me to narrow down to the people I'm targeting. And even personally, I've narrowed down to the people I associate with. This is so that I can be able to improve and make progress. Because progress comes in improving certain aspects of your life. And so in business, it's going to be difficult to grow your business if you don't know your target customers. And it's going to be difficult to shape your business in a way that fits your customer. And to give reference to the Unpack Show podcast, I remember the first time when I started the Unpack Show podcast, the only thing that I knew is that I'm going to interview people that seem or that appeals to me as successful people. And I'm just going to have the conversations that are about the life-changing conversation with those people. And I'm also going to do the solo podcast where I'm going to be motivating people, inspiring people, sharing words of encouragement with people. But to ask specifically what kind of conversation, I didn't know, and I didn't even know the kind of people that I'm targeting. So I look back to where the Unpack Show comes from, and I can see how I stumbled so many times, where I tripped and fell in trying to really build the Unpack Show podcast. And after some time of being faced with failure, after some time of questioning my ability to do the Unpack Show podcast, I came to a point where I asked myself that, why did I start the Unpack Show podcast? What is the Unpack Show podcast? And the Unpack Show podcast, it's close to my heart. It's one of the projects that started, I think, back, if I can still recall clearly, it started back in 2017, 2018. But I've worked on it from the year 2020. Well, that's when the picture, or that's when the vision started to be clear. Because a lot of us, we come from rural villages, from backgrounds mo elong gore most of us, we don't have the privilege to have that parent and to teach you about life and to guide you about life. So I've built the Unpack Show podcast based on a voice of a parent, a voice that can guide you into making informed decisions, to influence you to be a responsible person. Because of one thing that I see as we grow up as young adults is that responsibility stands at the peak. Responsibility is one of the most important elements of life, and if you lack that element of responsibility, you can easily drift away, and then at a point in life you just live anyhow. You don't know the direction of your life, you don't know what you're doing, you just hang around with everyone, talking about just everything and doing just about everything because of you don't have a sense of responsibility, assuming yourself responsible for the things that you do on day-to-day basis and the things that you commit yourself to. And that's why I've said that one of the most beautiful things that has helped me in my journey is learning and knowing that it's not everyone who can relate to my work, and it's not everyone who will seem to be appealing to me. And the key here is to know who you are and why you started. Most of the time when I speak, I emphasize knowing why you started, so that you can still continue to push even in the midst of confusions and doubts. Because most of the time when you are seen to be faced with failure, you can easily give up. Because the hardest thing in life is to actually work on an idea and convince people to believe in an idea. Because an idea, it's still in your mind. It's not yet being built to come into physical experience. It's not something that someone can touch or someone can see. So that's why it's difficult to work on an idea. And that's why it is important to know why you started, so that you can be able to push yourself in the midst of confusions and in those times where you doubt yourself. One of the most interesting statements I've ever read from the book Storm by Billy Graham. He says the following: every generation has its own struggles, and every generation will have to cope with their own struggles. You know, it's so many times where I reflect to this statement, because it's like I said, it's one of the most interesting statements that I've ever read. There are so many times where I talk about these statements because it seems to be appealing to me. It seems to relate to our life experience. And this is because I see how we get so defeated by the struggles we come across. And that's why I said that what inspired me to do the podcast, it's how so many of us as young people, we don't have parents who can teach us about this life experience, about what is expected from us in this life. And as a result, many of us as young people, we struggle a lot to navigate through life. We want improvement and change in our lives, but we struggle to get that improvement. We struggle with that change. And most of the politicians, even us, we having this conversation amongst ourselves about revolution. But there's a point in life where I came to realize that there's no revolution without a war. But to bring it to a personal level and to personalize it, in the revolution of reshaping our lives, it's about a mental war, fighting some of the beliefs that are standing on our way, the beliefs that are engraved in our minds. Because beliefs have a way at how they shape your life. And so sometimes we struggle not because it's impossible to do something, but the beliefs that are engraved in our mind are the ones that makes it hard for us to excel in what we are doing. And this brings me to the most interesting part, which is community. It is important that we put ourselves in communities that value growth and improvement. And it's not only that, but communities that embrace who we are and our differences. Recently I've doing some self-introspection, trying to understand my life, where I am, where I'm going, particularly because I've been asking myself that up to so far in life, what form of achievement do I have, or what sort of achievement can I show to myself and to people at this point in my life? And this brought me to one of the most interesting questions that I had to ask myself, because I am not satisfied with where I am in life. I'm not satisfied with what I have achieved because I've worked so hard and there's only little that I can show as a form of achievement. And I've asked myself this question, or rather the introspection brought me to asking, or led me into asking myself this question of, what is the biggest mistake have I made in my life? And for me personally, the biggest mistake that I've made in my life is to try and have it all at the same time. Everything that I wanted to have it at the same time. And another thing is that the biggest mistake that I've made was to try and be like every other successful person. And as a result, I have neglected who I am meant to be, because most of the time we try so much into being like someone else, and in a pursuit to be like someone else, you end up neglecting your true self. You end up neglecting who you are meant to be. You end up neglecting your potential, your true ability, trying and diving deep, in fact, to get to a point whereby you are searching for your true self. Bishop Mapunga wrote a book. I haven't yet read the book, but I see most of the quotes. I just love the title of his book, Find Your Own Truth. Because truth about life, it's one of the most important things. When we grow up, as we grow up in this life, we are taught about life. We are being interpreted this life by the people we look up to. Our life is being interpreted by our parents. Our teachers are interpreting life. And so when we grow up, sometimes we struggle to navigate through life because of our reality and what we are taught doesn't link. And so that's why we have to come to a point in life where we find our own truth. That's why most of the time we find it so hard to continue in pursuit, or to continue to pursue the things that we want when we seem to be faced with failure, because of we approach life and the things that we do with the mindset and with the definition of life of how we are taught about lives. Often the way we are taught about life, it can bring a confusion as to how we go about doing and how we go about living our lives, because sometimes we are building our lives and the things that we do around the interpretation of life that we got from our parents, from our teachers, from our role models. That's why it's important to get to a point in life whereby you really find your own truth. Because the biggest struggle is not in accepting, the biggest struggle is in not accepting who we are. We are abandoning ourselves. Like I said, that we are abandoning ourselves in a pursuit for who we want to be accepted, or for who life is taught to us about. For how life is interpreted in our lives. And it's so sad because we live in a time where true values and qualities that are meant to shape us into being true to ourselves are being destroyed by the mainstream media. Because today we want quick success, and we have forgotten that success is a journey of living each day, working on improving certain aspects of your life so that you can really be the best in what you do. And that alone comes with lots of setbacks. That's why we are bound to trip and fall, because in this journey of life, as we are growing, we are trying to uncover who we truly are. We are trying to pursue a journey of finding our own truth. And in that, we should put it in our mind. We should put it at the top of our mind that we are bound to trip and fall. And when we seem to be faced with failure, let us realize that that failure comes, or that moment of falling comes as a result of pursuing for our own truth. We are still searching. That falling moment, it's not the end of life. We shouldn't see it as some sort of like the end of life. That moment of falling, it should be seen as a mistake that we have made in trying to pursue our true self. And in closure, I would like to say the following. The key to life, it's not about being perfect, but it's about being the best in what you do. And in being the best, it means that you will need to constantly reshape your life and improve certain aspects that will enable you to be the best in what you do. And so, it's okay to doubt yourself. It's okay to feel like you are not capable. It's okay to doubt your ability to do something. It's okay to feel like you are not enough. And after you are done feeling set, sit yourself down and ask yourself this question. What is it that you can improve in that moment of falling, in that failure you are faced with? What is it that you can improve so that you can excel in your studies, so that you can excel in your business, so that you can be the best in your talent? What is it that you can improve so that you can be the best? Friends, this is what we had for you this week on the Unpack Show podcast. Till we meet again next week, be blessed, be healthy, and as my role model Vusi Tembekwayo once said, have the spirit of the underdog.